Welcome to HorseTalk, Lessons in Leadership, the Protest, COVID, and the Last Dance edition. You might be wondering, what do the protests and the coronavirus and Michael Jordan and the Bulls have to do with HorseTalk? To me, they have everything to do with HorseTalk, and that's what I want to share with you today. You know, in HorseTalk, the actual experience that takes place in a pasture with horses, people often say to me when I point out something that I see them doing, it could be something positive or something that I want them to do less of, and how it applies in their everyday life. They often say to me, they just can't make that connection between something in the pasture and something in everyday life. To me, I see it clearly. And that's what I want to share with you are the lessons from HorseTalk and how in this instance they apply to the protest, COVID, and Michael Jordan. And challenge you to then say, how can I take a lesson from the protest, from COVID, from the Last Dance, and how can I apply that to my life? So the goal of this session and the goal of everything that I do in at Electric Impulse is to offer relevant content to challenge you, to grow with you. And that's what I want to do in the Zoom session today, is take these lessons from HorseTalk and apply them to the protest, to COVID, and to the Last Dance. Hi there. This is a picture of a baby horse, maybe an hour after this baby was born. Now, this was about a month ago. This is an absolutely gorgeous little Arabian filly. One of the characteristics of an Arabian is that their nose is so small that they can drink out of a teacup. And this one does look like she could drink out of a teacup. But when I was there a few hours after she was born, she had stood up, but she could not figure out how to lay down. And you could see how much she wanted to lay down. And she could not figure out with those long legs. She could not figure out how to get down. Well, what that to me has to do with the coronavirus is that, you know, when we kind of started out on this journey, we couldn't figure out like masks, like how do we wear them? Where do we wear them? When do we wear them? When do we take them off? Same thing with social distancing. And now if you go past a lot of stores, more so in Cuyahoga County than Summit County, you will see people standing outside on their X's because they have made it 6 feet apart. And now it's not going to be awkward. It's just going to be something that we do. Just like the baby getting up and getting down now, a month later, this baby's navigating the world without even thinking about it. And that's what we will continue to do as human beings, is take these lessons and be a little bit less awkward. So when I point out some of the lessons, in the beginning, it might seem awkward to you to take a lesson and apply it to COVID or to the protest, but it will get less awkward the more that you do it. We're going to start with some of the fun ones before we get to the protest. You might have seen or heard that during our shelter at home, ESPN had a 10-part series on the Bulls, and it was called The Last Dance. It was 2 episodes every Sunday night that, for those that watched it, helped get us through the shelter at home. In this particular one, I want to make 3 points, 3 lessons from HorseTalk, the book, and apply it to Michael Jordan, his mom, and Nike. And as the story goes, Michael Jordan had always thought he wanted a contract with Adidas shoes. He wore Adidas shoes. He loved Adidas shoes. He wanted a contract with Adidas shoes. Well, at that time, Adidas was going through new management, and they didn't want him. They didn't even make him an offer in his rookie year. So Nike reached out to him, and Nike invited him to come up to Oregon and tour the Nike plant, and he didn't want to go. He did not want to go. His mother said to him, If they are nice enough to invite you, then you are getting on a plane and you are going to Nike. When he got there, Nike had a big banner that said, the Nike family welcomes the Jordan family. And it was Michael and his parents. They made him an offer. At the time, the standard offer for a player was $100,000 for a 4-year contract. They offered him $250,000 for a 4-year contract in his rookie year. Their goal was that they would sell 3 million shoes in 4 years. 3 million shoes in 4 years. They sold 126 million the first year. They sold 70 million the first 2 months. One of the reasons that they did is that they hired Spike Lee in the photo to produce the commercials. And those commercials took the shoe from something that you wore when you played sports to something that you wore every day. And everybody wanted their Air Jordans. So and to this day, Michael Jordan continues to make more money from his shoes than he makes from any other aspect of his career, including being a part owner of a basketball team. So the lessons that we want to look at, there's always a defining moment. To me in this story, the defining moment is his mother saying, Michael, you might be 6'6" and you might be an NBA player, but you better listen to your mother and get on that plane. And think about how different history would be for Nike and for all of us if there weren't the Air Jordans. There's always a defining moment. The problem is that we often talk through it or motor through it and don't see that defining moment. The second lesson that I apply here is that you make you empowered. Now, I had a client once that was promoted to vice president. And he said to me, you know, Leslie, needs to tell the CEO to treat this client like a peer, because he said the CEO wasn't treating him like a peer. So I thought, well, this is going to be kind of interesting. And I said to the CEO, who was also a client, you know, Bob says that you don't treat him like a peer. And the CEO said, when he starts acting like a peer, I will start treating him like a peer. You make you empowered. You can't wait for someone else to make you empowered. It's the same thing with a horse. I don't care whether it's a small horse or a big horse. They weigh more than you do. You make you empowered to get the horse to do what you want him to. You can't wait for the horse to make you empowered, your boss to make you empowered, or Nike to make you empowered. Michael Jordan was basically a nobody when he got the biggest contract. You make you empowered and enjoy the opportunity. Now, I wouldn't say if he had already signed with Adidas, it wouldn't be right to take the opportunity to go to Nike and to check it out, but look for opportunities to enjoy, because you don't know what can happen out of that. He thought he was going to go with Adidas. You might think, well, I know we're going to hire this vendor or we're going to hire this person, but be open and enjoy the opportunities. Continuing with The Last Dance, there's an interesting segment where in the middle of a season, Dennis Rodman goes to the coach, Phil Jackson, and Michael and says he wants 48 hours in Las Vegas. He needs a vacation. Now think about this, in the middle of a season, and they grant him 48 hours in Las Vegas. So Dennis Rodman goes to Las Vegas, and he actually does come back in the 48 hours. But he decided that he needed a staycation, and he stayed in his apartment and did not come back to practice. Well, Michael Jordan comes to practice, and there's no Dennis Rodman. As it turns out, Dennis Rodman happened to live in an apartment that I understand was not furnished, right across from where the Bulls played. So Michael Jordan took himself over to Dennis Rodman's apartment. Not only knocked on the door, he just went in. And it is said he dragged Dennis Rodman by his nose ring out of the apartment. Well, the reason I have Carmen Electra in this photo is that Carmen Electra was in the apartment with Dennis Rodman at that time. And she said she was so embarrassed when she saw Michael Jordan that she hid under a sheet and never said that she was there. Well, the lessons to be learned are, first, number 45, Get the attention of your audience. If they're not paying attention to you, whether it's a horse or a person, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how eloquent you are, how right you are. It doesn't matter. You have to make sure that you have their attention, which is one reason why you will often see a rider carrying a short whip called a crop to get the attention of the horse. You always want to pay attention. Where are the ears of the horse? If they're looking straight ahead, they're probably not paying attention to you. Well, where are your team's figurative ears? Where are your figurative ears? Are you paying attention to the squirrel outside the window or to the person that is talking? And the second lesson that we learn here is engage in a manner that meets your audience's needs, not your needs. Michael Jordan at the time was Michael Jordan. He was the most valuable player. Everybody knew he was the greatest, but he didn't stand on the court in the Bulls arena and say, Rodman's supposed to come here. He engaged in a manner that met his audience's needs and got the job done and took himself over to that apartment and brought Rodman back. So engage in a manner that meets your audience's needs. You know, there's a saying with horses that if a horse isn't doing what you want him to do, you're asking him to do the wrong thing. It's you, it's not the horse. You have to engage in a way that meets your audience's needs, whether your audience is one person or a room full of people. Now, we think of Steve Kerr today, we may think of him as the coach of the Golden State Warriors, but he was a Bull in the beginning. He was also a Cleveland Cavalier, but he was a Bull for several seasons. Every individual has a purpose and a role. The purpose of Steve Kerr is that despite starting in only 30 games in his entire career, he has 5 rings, five rings, because of his ability to shoot the 3-point shot. That's his purpose. It would be silly to have him defend. It would be silly to have him rebound. His purpose was the 3-point shot. And so look around your team and look in the mirror at yourself. Do you know your purpose? Do you know the purpose of others? And the other lesson that we learn is recognize when you need to be more assertive. During practice, twice, in Michael Jordan's time with the Bulls, he punched another player. Now, in today's world, he would probably be fined and maybe even suspended for that. But in that time, he didn't have any consequences. Well, when he punched Steve Kerr punched back. Even though he was only Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan was already Michael Jordan. But he recognized that he needed to not just take it and to give some of it back. So you need to recognize, not that I'm suggesting anyone goes around punching anyone, but you need to recognize when to be more assertive. Now, the other side that's kind of interesting to the story is after he punched, Michael Jordan punched Steve Kerr, he's driving his Porsche home from practice, and he realizes that he should apologize. Well, in today's world, you know, we see and we hear that all the players are, you know, they're texting each other and they're on the same thread. And well, Michael Jordan didn't even have Steve Kerr's phone number. He had to call the Bulls front office, ask for Steve Kerr's cell phone number, and then call and apologize. So, you know, how accessible are you to the people you need to talk to, and how accessible are you to them? Scottie Pippen. Can't have The Last Dance without Scottie Pippen. Now, the reason I have the numbers 2 and 50 are that he was always number 2 to Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan was there. But yet, when they, in about 2009, when they identified the 50 greatest players of all time, Scottie Pippen was in that 50. And those 50 were not ranked in any order, so he might have been 2, he might have been 49. But being number 2 can still get you to being one of the best of all time. The lessons that we learn are to correctly identify people's skills as what they really are, not what they want them to be or not what you want them to be. When Michael Jordan retired to play baseball and Scottie Pippen became the #1 guy, he found out how hard it was to be the guy because his skill set really wasn't designed to be the guy. Now, the other side of that is players would tell you that he was a perfect complement to Michael Jordan because Michael was a tyrant, in his own words, at practice. Scottie was the guy that came and put his arm around you and said everything's going to be okay. That was his skill set. You need both. Within you, you need both, and on your teams, you need both. The second lesson we learn is that there are always consequences. So when Scottie was playing, he did two things that created some negative consequences. He wasn't happy with his contract early in his career. He never was really well paid. And so he needed surgery. And he decided to not have it in the off season and spoil his off season and to wait and have it during the season. Now think about that. You're the second best player on the team, and you're going to have your surgery and be out during the season. The second thing that he did, he was unhappy at the end of the game. Coach Jackson called a play in the last few seconds and gave the ball to another player, not to Scottie Pippen. And Scottie was mad and refused to go back in the game. But Michael Jordan told him, there are going to be consequences for that. That was not a good move. Well, in the last dance, both of these incidents are pointed out, that he had the surgery during the season and that he refused to go in a game. Well, I understand that Scottie Pippen was not terribly happy with the 10 episodes of The Last Dance and how he was portrayed. I say there are always consequences for your actions. Those were his actions. And now perhaps he has a small consequence to pay, although still a beloved player. We're going to move into the protest section. You will see that the protests and Corona are kind of intertwined because Corona is intertwined in every part of our life today. I call this wrong place, wrong time. In the round pen, at HorseTalk, in the round pen, when it's just one participant and the horse and myself, and the participant is giving commands to the horse to walk, to trot, to canter, to whoa. You will hear me say, you've got to give the right command at the right time, at the right place. A horse's motor is at the back of them. So if you say whoa to a horse while behind them, they're not going to stop because your visual is saying to move forward. If you're in front of the horse and say giddy up, they're not going to go faster. Being in front of them is saying to stop. You have to be in the right place at the right time with the right message. This is a photo from that infamous day a couple weeks ago when President Trump had used pepper balls and the military to clear a peaceful rally so he could walk over to this church for this photo op and hold this Bible upside down, as you might notice in this photo. It was, as audiences decided, and I would say probably 90% of America agreed on this, this was not the right place, this was not the right time, this was not the right message. So you are decided by your audience. Your audience decides that, not you. Just because you're the leader doesn't make you right. There was a HorseTalk where in the same group, there was a CFO of a company and there was an executive director of a nonprofit. The group was building the obstacle course and the executive director of the nonprofit had a really good idea. And she told that to the group and they didn't pay a lot of attention to her. And then she just shut up and she did not try to communicate her idea because she said later, well, the CFO, who was a big CFO, he didn't agree with it, so she didn't pursue it. Well, just because he was a CFO doesn't make him right about everything. Her idea was right. Her idea would have helped them get through the obstacle course much faster and more successfully. So just because you're the leader doesn't always make you right. And number 27, know your judges. Who is judging you? At a normal horse show, you have one judge. At nationals, you have 5 judges. So you have to be right all the way around the ring. But within those judges, they're not all going to have an equal vote. Well, within your audiences, they don't all have an equal vote. You have to identify who all is in your audience, maybe board members, maybe prospective members, maybe longtime members, maybe younger people, maybe older people, but they don't all have equal weight for every message. Know your judges, who is judging you, and prioritize them. We have Mitt Romney on the left here. Mainly for the lesson, make yourself as small or as big as the situation dictates. With a horse, sometimes you want to make yourself bigger. I had a group at HorseTalk one year in June, I remember, that in the same group, I had a 6'4" divorce attorney and a 4'11" woman who owned her own import company. Now, I think if I asked most people who would be more effective with a horse, most people would say the 6'4" person. But the 6'4" person made himself so small. And the 4'11" person made herself very big by saying, whoa. The 6'4" person made himself very small by going, whoa, whoa. So it's not whether you're small or big, it's look at the situation. For you, it might be, do you want to sit, when you're having this difficult conversation, do you want to sit behind a big desk, or do you want to sit next to the person? Do you want to sit across from them, or do you want to be able to put your arm around them? So you always want to decide, make yourself as big or small as a situation dictates. Mitt Romney, a couple Sundays ago, joined thousands of protesters. He is in a long sleeve shirt with his shirt sleeves rolled up. He is just walking with all of them. Someone noticed him, took a photo and did an interview, but he made himself small. Sometimes we make ourselves small, sometimes we need to make ourselves big. Sometimes leaders have to get muddy. At HorseTalk Today, I'm often saying, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's dusty, sometimes it's dirty. Figuratively, so is leadership. On that day, Washington, D.C. can get, pretty humid. On that day, he was just, no special attention. He wasn't riding along in a limousine. Sometimes there is no alternative than to get figuratively muddy. And beware of mixed messages. The photo of the policeman kneeling was taken in New York. It kind of went viral, and it got a lot of good press that, the policemen were kneeling. They were de-escalating a situation instead of escalating a situation. Well, about a week after this, one of the police officers wrote an email to the world saying that he had apologized to his officers, to his fellow officers. That was the worst decision. He said it was the worst decision he ever made to kneel. And he was sorry, and he went on. Well, that's a very mixed message. And now the next time we see someone in a position of authority who kneels or who walks with protesters, what do we think of it? Do we think it's a mixed message? Is it going to get apologized for later? So beware of the mixed messages. Remember, woe said softly is a mixed message. So look to yourself first for your mixed messages before you look at their effectiveness or your audience's effectiveness. 8 minutes on Capitol Hill. This is a photo of it happens to be that the Democrats took a knee for 8 minutes and some seconds, the same amount of time that the knee was on George Floyd's throat. And they took it when they introduced their quote, police bill. I don't know what it's being called, but the bill that it's going to encompass some changes that they are suggesting. The changes include a national police misconduct registry, Right now, if a police officer does a bad thing in Florida and moves to Iowa and applies for a job, they may never know about that because there's no national registry. It would include no knock warrants would be outlawed, and chokeholds would be outlawed, and lynching would become a hate crime. So when they introduced this bill, they took a knee for 8 minutes. You need a team to accomplish most challenges. You don't see one person taking a knee. It was several people. At HorseTalk, in billiards and obstacle course, you need a team to accomplish those challenges. If you were the best horse whisperer in the history of the world, it would be very difficult to accomplish those challenges because you need a team. You need someone to create momentum from the back and create direction from the front. So you want to look at things and what do you need a team to accomplish and what can one person accomplish? And sometimes just because a person can do it alone does not mean that they should. I do have to point out that front photo is Nancy Pelosi. She is 80 years old, and take a look at those stilettos, okay? Another lesson that we learn is hope is not a strategy. I love the word hope, but not as a professional business strategy. They need a strategy to get this bill to move is going to take a strategy, not just hope or taking a knee. And the last lesson is sometimes you have to be open to failure to succeed. There's a good chance that this bill will pass the House, it will not pass the Senate. But sometimes you have to be open to that. And sometimes along the way, you can learn things that can change an outcome. But you've got to be open and look in the honest mirror and say, am I okay with the failure? Am I okay if I don't get the promotion? Am I okay with this? Be open to failure in order to succeed. In some ways, I think that this is kind of one of the most interesting concepts in this PowerPoint. Will a leader emerge? Tie it to lesson, identify the leader or the decision maker, whether assigned or assumed. When you are making a presentation, you have to pay attention to who is the leader, whether they have the title or not. The person that has the title may not be the leader on this decision. The CEO may not be able to make the decision. It may be a board decision. Or the vice president may not be able to. He might turn the decision over to a committee. So you need to be able to identify who really is the decision maker. Now, with the protests, there is no leader that has emerged yet to be a spokesperson. And I think this is going to be something interesting to watch because the leaders that we've had in the past are not right for this time. So it's going to take a new leader. President Obama has spoken up, but he's not the right person to be the leader. Senator Cory Booker has spoken up. I kind of doubt the leader will come from an establishment person. So look to see who's going to be the leader because somebody has to speak. Who can say when they're satisfied? Someone is going to have to speak. And so keep an eye on who is going to be a leader. Sometimes you need to make bold moves. You know, someone told me that 60-some years old the other day that they saw protesters, peaceful protesters in Medina Square. And they went up to the peaceful protesters and said, you know, keep doing what you're doing because in my time, it was protest that ended a war. You know, protest is what ended the Vietnam War. Sometimes you have to make bold moves. They may have negative consequences. Those protesters could get hurt. They could lose their job. You know, they could get fired. There are negative consequences. You have to look in that honest mirror and be willing to risk them and know that sometimes bold moves are necessary. The picture on the left is a picture from Lafayette Square. This is the area that President Trump asked to be cleared when he went to the church for that photo op. And that's when the pepper balls were used and the military was used, which will come up also in another slide. There is an act called the Posse Act, which prohibits active duty personnel from basically clashing with Americans, okay? So they're not allowed to. Later, one of the people, the military people that was involved in that said, using the military to put down protests is an unlawful use of force. So I understand that people are frustrated, but we need to control frustration. Sometimes it can be as simple as getting up and going for a walk. Sometimes it can be, you know, stopping what we're doing and getting on eBay and looking at something. But we need, the controlling frustration needs to start with ourselves, because we can see what happens when it got out of hand. The horse decides if you're a leader. Your audience decides if you're a leader. No matter what title you have, it's not enough to say, I'm the president, I'm the vice president, I'm the managing partner, I'm the leader of this team. I get to decide. Your group, your audience always decides if you're a leader at this moment in time. And they always give you feedback. The challenge is to keep looking for that feedback. If they are continually giving you buy-in, that you're a leader. The photo on the right, control frustration, applies also to this photo. It's not easy to see it, but this is because it's taken from a video and a Target. It's taken from a video in a Target aisle when an employee asked two shoppers to wear their mask, and they refused, and they ended up with a broken arm. So we need to learn to control frustration. We have Mayor Horrigan taking a knee, and we have Amy Acton. When Mayor Horrigan went to this protest, I doubt that he knew he was going to take a knee. You can't always know the answer or the right thing, but we have to do something. And here's a photo of him taking a knee with protesters as he talked and spent a day talking with them. Opportunity has a shelf life. The opportunity for us to have Amy Acton in her role as the top healthcare person in the state has ended. She resigned on Thursday. But what I want to share with you is she said, I want you to think about the fact that this is our one shot in this country. All of us are going to have to sacrifice. Opportunity has a shelf life. It has a shelf life for how long someone may be in office. It has a shelf life for that are one shot. Your careers, your opportunities have a shelf life. Say yes to all the opportunities that you can. The Google CEO said, be open, hopeful, and impatient. Now, one of my rules is to be patient, don't rush. But I am the first to say that we have to be purposeful in deciding when to be patient and when to be impatient. I believe we're going to have to be patient for a vaccine. There are actually 5 steps that a vaccine has to go through before it comes to us. And we're going to have to be patient. But on some things, we have a right to be impatient and to be able to want something sooner. So we need to be purposeful. And we need to communicate when the task is complete. We're all going to want to hear when all 5 steps are complete for that vaccine. My last slide is of General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He got involved in that photo shoot when we earlier showed the photo shoot at the church. He got involved in going to that photo shoot with President Trump. Afterwards, he first sent out an email to the military saying that he shouldn't have been there. He should not have been in that role. There's a rule at HorseTalk, stay out of the kick zone, which is literally stay out of the kick zone of getting kicked by a horse, which is about 3 to 5 feet behind a horse. But figuratively, we put ourselves in the kick zone all the time when we get our feelings hurt or our career hurt. So he apologized in an email, but then he did a press conference and he apologized and he said it was a mistake. He said it was wrong to create a perception of military involvement. He said, I should not have been there. That is regrouping and staying out of the kick zone. Once he got kicked, I said, what do I do about it? And so I have 100 lessons in HorseTalk, lessons in leadership, but I added 101 because this one really should have been in there. So this is my bonus one. Apologize when appropriate, even when you apologize to a horse. I don't know if you've ever accidentally stepped on your dog and if you said, excuse me. Well, I kind of think you should say, excuse me, even if it's a dog, because it's what that spirit communicates. So you want to apologize to a horse, you're in a bad mood, you yanked him too hard, apologize, because you want to be used to apologizing when there is a mistake. He found himself in the kick zone, and even though he's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he wasn't too big to apologize to America and say, I shouldn't have been there. Your challenge is to figure out how to take a lesson and apply it in your life. This photo is of Caroline from the Akron Zoo. It's my favorite photo from all of the horse talks because it just showed such happiness. She was painting the horse at this moment with her hands with safe color for horses. But your challenge is to take a lesson, whether to be impatient or patient, to know your judges, to regroup, to apologize, to think about your audience, to look for defining moments, to remember that you're more empowered than you think you are because you give yourself the power, and apply that to something. I thank you for joining me today. I didn't see any questions. If anyone has any questions, I'm glad to answer. Come to the pasture. We are doing a COVID version of HorseTalk, a half-day version of HorseTalk with half the people, half the day, and staying safe, hopefully, by eliminating some exercises that brought people closer together. I would love to have you come or just talk to me about coaching or speaking about HorseTalk. I thank you for joining me today. I challenge you to take a lesson and apply it to something. Let me know, let me grow with you. Any last comments from the road, for the road? I thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you. Sorry, we're late.